Megyn Kelly's statement on her Fox News show, where she declared that both Santa Claus and Jesus were white, generated significant discussion and diverse reactions.
Santa just is white. Yeah. Jesus was a white man too, but you know, it's like he was a historical figure. I mean, that's a verifiable fact, as is Santa. I just want the kids watching to know that.
Her comments were made in response to a piece in Slate by Aisha Harris, which had discussed the idea of a black versus white Santa Claus. Kelly made further remarks on the show, by saying, "Just because it makes you feel uncomfortable, it doesn't mean it has to change."
Just because it makes you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean it has to change.
That's not Jesus! That's not Jesus! Anyone who has studied the Bible and anyone who knows about the heritage or the roots of Jesus knows that he was a dark-skinned person and probably wasn't a white man. It's not probably was. He wasn't a white man. He was a darker persuasion.
Yeah, he certainly didn't come from
Jewish, right?
He didn't come from Europe. He didn't come from North America. That's just not where he came from. So Jesus isn't white, and saying that is just wrong.
This raised a number of responses, both positive and negative. Some viewers applauded Kelly for defending traditional depictions of Jesus, arguing that his figure had been portrayed as white for centuries, and shouldn't be altered to cater to changing sensibilities. Some individuals framed Kelly's statement as an expression of her freedom of speech and thought, asserting that it was important to allow differing viewpoints in public discourse, even if they are controversial. Many conservative commentators and audiences supported Kelly's remarks, viewing them as a defense of cultural heritage and traditional values. Though she gained some positive feedback, it could not outnumber the amount of negative reactions she received as a result of her statements.
She got a lot of negative feedback over that segment. People were making fun of her. A lot of late night shows were making fun of her.
And I was surprised at her ignorance, because anyone that knows anything about the history of Jesus Christ also knows that he was also a brown man. I'm surprised at Megyn's ignorance on this subject, especially given the platform that she has. I think she should be ashamed of herself.
Kelly's comments were widely criticized for insensitivity and a lack of cultural awareness. Critics argued that it perpetuated racial stereotypes and ignored the diverse cultural backgrounds of people around the world. Critics pointed out that historical evidence and various cultures had diverse interpretations of Jesus, making it inaccurate to claim that he was definitively white man. Advocates for diversity and inclusion stressed the importance of depicting Jesus in ways that reflect the diversity of the global population, emphasizing the need for greater cultural representation in mainstream media. Some used Kelly's statement as an opportunity to initiate discussions about the portrayal of historical and mythical figures and their cultural significance in a more inclusive manner. After Megyn Kelly made her controversial statement about Santa Claus and Jesus being white, she faced significant backlash from the public, media, and various advocacy groups. In response to the backlash, she issued an on-air apology and expressed a desire to rephrase her previous remarks.
I regret a lot of what I've said. I mean, you're going to be on the air several hours a week, live television. You're going to say stupid. That's just the reality, you know. So yeah, there's a lot I'd like to go back and say differently.
Kelly acknowledged that her comments had upset many people and acknowledged the need for greater sensitivity and awareness regarding issues of race and cultural representation. Her statement emphasized the importance of learning from her mistakes and engaging in more considerate discussions on such topics. It's not uncommon for public figures to reevaluate and clarify their statements in the face of criticism, especially when addressing sensitive and controversial subjects. Kelly's attempt to backtrack on her earlier comments and express regret was seen by some as an effort to mitigate the damage caused by her initial statements and to demonstrate a willingness to engage in a more thoughtful and constructive dialogue about issues related to race and cultural diversity. However, her initial remarks and subsequent apology continued to fuel conversations about the portrayal of historical, biblical and mythical figures and the broader topic of racial representation in media and public discourse. The debate over the racial representation of Jesus is multifaceted, with various perspectives stemming from both historical interpretations and personal beliefs. Many study the scriptures carefully and without a doubt believe that Jesus was likely of African or Middle Eastern descent, and thus, believe he should be depicted as a person of color. They point to several factors to support this view, which includes the fact that Jesus was born in Bethlehem and lived in the Middle East. Advocates for a black Jesus argue that he would have had the physical characteristics common to that region, including darker skin. Some religious groups, including the IUIC Hebrew Israelites, suggest that the Bible contains references that hint at Jesus having a darker complexion. For instance, They believe the Bible describes Jesus as having hair like wool and feet like bronze, which they interpret as indicators of a darker-skinned person. This perspective seeks to emphasize that Jesus, as a historical figure, was more likely to be a person of color, given the region he lived in and the cultural context of his time. On the other hand, many people, particularly in Western cultures, have traditionally depicted Jesus as white. This view is rooted in historical European art and cultural traditions, and those who hold this perspective offer reasons, which includes the historical representations of Jesus. European art often depicted him with light skin, especially during the Renaissance period. These artistic traditions have had a lasting impact on the perception of Jesus. Some people argue that their cultural heritage has long depicted Jesus as a white figure, and this tradition is deeply ingrained in their religious and familial backgrounds. While the Bible does not provide a detailed physical description of Jesus, some individuals interpret references to his appearance differently, or they believe that his spiritual significance transcends his physical attributes. The depiction of Jesus as a white figure has a long history with complex origins. The idea of a white Jesus can be traced back to various factors and historical developments, including artistic traditions, cultural influences, and religious interpretations. During the Renaissance in Europe, artists often portrayed religious figures in a European context. As a result, they depicted Jesus with fair skin and European features. These artistic representations became influential and have shaped the image of Jesus in Western cultures for centuries. European colonial expansion and the spread of Christianity played a significant role in promoting the white Jesus image. As European powers colonized other parts of the world, they often imposed their cultural and religious beliefs, including the European portrayal of Jesus. In many regions, the image of a white Jesus was adopted as a symbol of Christianity. Over time, it became deeply ingrained in the religious and cultural traditions of various communities, especially in the Western world. For many people, the image of a white Jesus is deeply connected to their cultural and religious heritage. It provides a sense of familiarity and continuity with their religious traditions. The white Jesus image has inspired numerous works of art, literature, and religious iconography, contributing to the rich cultural history of Western societies. In some Christian denominations, the image of a white Jesus is an important symbol of faith, representing their religious beliefs and values. The portrayal of Jesus as white has been criticized for perpetuating racial bias, as it has often been used to reinforce the idea that white is superior to other racial backgrounds. The white Jesus image can be seen as culturally insensitive, as it fails to represent the diversity of the global Christian community and the historical context in which Jesus lived. The association of a white Jesus with European colonialism and cultural imperialism has left a lasting impact, creating tensions and criticisms in regions historically colonized by European powers. Some argue that the white Jesus image contributes to racial stereotyping and the erasure of the actual historical and cultural context in which Jesus lived. In recent years, there has been a growing recognition of the need for more inclusive and diverse representations of religious figures, including Jesus, to reflect the multicultural and multi-ethnic nature of contemporary societies. These discussions reflect broader dialogues on issues of racial representation, cultural sensitivity, and the evolving nature of religious imagery in a globalized world. In response to criticisms of the white Jesus image, some artists, theologians, and religious leaders have made efforts to provide more diverse depictions of Jesus that better reflect the historical and cultural context of the Middle East. These depictions aim to challenge traditional representations and promote a more inclusive understanding of Jesus. Interfaith dialogues and collaborations among different religious communities have also spurred discussions on the portrayal of religious figures, including Jesus. These conversations emphasize the importance of mutual respect and understanding. Many educational institutions and religious organizations are working to educate people about the historical and cultural context of Jesus' life, highlighting the diversity of the region. This awareness is intended to challenge preconceived notions and promote a more accurate understanding. The white Jesus image remains deeply ingrained in the cultural and religious traditions of many communities, and changing these depictions can face resistance from those who hold them dear. The artistic legacy of the white Jesus image can make it difficult to completely abandon this traditional representation, as it is tied to centuries of artistic heritage. Discussions surrounding the portrayal of Jesus can be divisive and lead to tensions within religious communities, making it a challenging topic to address. The portrayal of Jesus as a white figure has a complex history, with negative impacts. Efforts to promote more accurate and diverse depictions of Jesus are ongoing, reflecting broader discussions about cultural sensitivity, inclusivity, and the evolving nature of religious representation. As society becomes more diverse and globalized, these conversations continue to evolve and shape the way religious figures are depicted and understood in contemporary culture. Pastor Gino Jennings emphasized that Jesus is not portrayed as a white figure but rather as someone from a region of color, specifically from the tribe of Judah, which is historically associated with black descent.
Jesus was a Jew and came from a place of color. That's right.
The region where Jesus came from was not a region where white brothers and sisters was from. Jesus come from an area where people was of color.
He also underscores that the color of Jesus' skin is insignificant when it comes to the salvation of one's soul.
Nobody in the Bible ever was concerned about Jesus' skin color. No. Nobody.
So you would say unequivocally Jesus Christ was white as well?
Well, I'd say he's Jewish. That's what he
Is
was.
he white?
That's a fact.
Yeah, was he white?
I just said it. If you call Jews white, I mean, you can argue with me. Maybe they're big.
No, you didn't. I asked you if he was white, and you said he was Jewish, but was he white?
Well, I don't...
That's the debate, because Fox have made it very clear. Santa's white, Jesus is white.
He's not black. He is Middle Eastern. Maybe he's sort of beige peers.
Gino Jennings' message is rooted in the belief that our spiritual journey and relationship with God should be the focal point, rather than fixating on the physical attributes or ethnicity of Jesus. He encourages believers to prioritize their faith, moral values, and connection with God over any racial or visual interpretations of Jesus. Pastor Gino Jennings underscores the universal and inclusive nature of salvation, regardless of one's racial or ethnic background. He advocates for a spiritual approach that transcends physical appearances and fosters unity among believers by focusing on the core principles of love, faith, and salvation. This approach aligns with the broader message of how believers should live. The emphasis is often on one's personal relationship with God, their adherence to moral and ethical values, biblical guidelines, and their commitment to following the teachings of Jesus Christ rather than on physical attributes. By stressing that the color of Jesus' skin is irrelevant to salvation, Pastor Gino Jennings promotes an inclusive and harmonious perspective that can help bridge divides and promote unity among believers from various racial and cultural backgrounds. It encourages people to look beyond external differences and focus on the common spiritual journey towards a closer connection with God.
They really did pretend for a long time, and you see it in a lot of the churches where Jesus is blonde, blue-eyed, Nordic. He looks more like Thor than he just looks like Jesus of Nazareth or Bethlehem, right?
Right.
And so that was a serious issue that they used to keep people down for a long time. And the conversation is important in breaking down those barriers.
In a world where divisions based on race and ethnicity persist, teachings like those of the scriptures, which Pastor Gino Jennings believes, is seen as a call for unity, emphasizing the shared spiritual goals that bind believers together, irrespective of their racial or cultural backgrounds. It underscores the message of Jesus Christ and faith, that transcends physical appearances and is open to all who seek salvation in Christ. In the aftermath of Megyn Kelly's comments, this incident underscored the ongoing debate about the representation of cultural, biblical and historical figures and the need for sensitivity to diverse perspectives. It highlighted the power of media figures to influence public perception and the ongoing importance of discussing issues related to race, ethnicity, and cultural representation. It's important to note that the depiction of Jesus' race has been a subject of debate and discussion for centuries, and many argue that there is no definitive historical evidence to confirm his racial background. As a result, personal beliefs and cultural interpretations play a significant role in how people visualize Jesus. The representations of Jesus vary widely based on one's cultural and religious context, and these discussions continue to reflect broader dialogues about inclusivity, diversity, and cultural representation. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I do pray that we all continue in striving to please God. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when new videos are uploaded. Thanks for watching.